Tuesday is here on Beyond the Headlines. Quite a morning, wet and coming with quite a few things, but we're going to scale that hurdle. But thank you for staying with us on Prime Morning. Now, this morning, as announced, we get into some very topical matters, including LGBTQI AAP plus matters and the ruling administration and how they feel about it. We'll also get into the bit about the president's travels and what exactly that has accrued for us as a country. We've seen some of these announcements of packages coming in, vaccines and all of that. The travels of Mr. President amidst all the brouhaha, what has that yielded? We get into those discussions this morning with Ernest Kumi. He is a member of the NPP's communications team. Mr. Kumi, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother.
And I know you've had a bit of a long travel. So this morning, I said, why is slow
kakava? But I'm good.
But you would have to liven up.
Sure.
So we get this done and done.
It's part of the work, so I have no option.
Right.
Sure.
Let me ask you this pointed question. LGBTQI AAP plus.
Wow.
You've heard a lot of discussions about it. In a nutshell, what do you make of how far we've come as a country from maybe that interview that our president had some time back to what former presidents have said to where we find ourselves now contemplating, legislating on this bit? How far do you feel we've come? What do you think about how far we've come?
All right, so I think, let me say a very good morning to our viewers out there, but I seriously think society is very dynamic, and therefore wherever we've got into now is part of the conversation and development of society.
Right.
So we'll always come to a point where people will comment about these things. There will always be a rise and fall of such topical issues, and we'll always debate it dispassionately depending on where you belong to. You see, when it comes to the legislation of laws, there's those that believe in the natural law theories, those that believe in the positive law theories, and these are different schools of thought that are not compatible. So there are people that will believe that, oh, these are natural law thoughts, especially if you see how our pastors, our religious bodies are making serious argument about this, because this is very passionate and at the center of what they practice. So they believe in the natural law theory where it says that even non-man-made things like plants and other things have their purpose in life, and therefore they have their place in society, and therefore everything must live up to its purpose. They believe that as part of the good in life as human beings is to live a purposeful life and the life flourishing, and therefore whatever that we human beings will do should lead to that flourishing end. And therefore we've seen how they are putting in this argument. There are other school of thought, especially I'm sure in the last week we've heard about some 18 so-called academicians or professionals who are also advocating for the retraction of this legislation. And their argument seems to be in line with the positive law theorists, which says that they believe that laws must be made in place for the common good of society. And therefore, if you are legislating or putting in place such laws, which they think is going to be inimical to the human rights of others, they do not subscribe to it and they think it must be retracted. But be it as it may, I think that we are in a good place when the report of CDD is telling us that overwhelming about 95% of us, 93% of us are not in support of such a legislation, which means that majority of us in society, or if you move out there, if you take you meet every 10 group of people, you ordinarily have about 1 or 1.5 in there saying that they actually support this. So it means that we are still not there. I am tying this into what Mr. President said in his interview some time ago. You see, society must come to terms with some of these things and advocate for, or the general good of society must clamor for this, that we are in a place that we want this to happen. But as it stands now, Ghana, we are not in that place. The whole of us...
So let me just take you up there. We'll get to the specifics, but the president said it was bound to happen in that interview, after which we've had concerns raised and the president saying that, well, legislation and all of that, if we feel, when we get to that point where we feel we must do something, we are going to do it. Have we got to that point? I mean, you're talking about the numbers. The CDD's research shows that 93% of Ghanaians are not so tolerant when it comes to...
And that's a statement of fact, yes.
We've not gotten there LGBTQI.
Yet. We've not gotten there yet. And like the president was saying, sometime back in the UK, in the US, it was an illegitimate act, and people did not believe in it. Society was not clamoring for it. They got to a point where they believe that they've come thus far, and therefore it's about time for them to accept.
So we've not got to that.
We've not gotten there. Our traditions, our customs, and everything vehemently object to this, and there's no way we've gotten to this point for us to accept such practices as part of our customs and traditions. And mind you,
so it's interesting. I just want you to distinguish. Are you saying this from your personal perspective, I mean, or is it the party's perspective? The way you're sounding, we've not got to the point yet where we're going to embrace this, because we know right now it's either here or there. It's either you're pro the bill, or you, like the Catholics and Muslims and others are saying, or you are against the bill, like some of these academics are saying. So is this your personal opinion?
Both my personal position, the party's position, and the president's position. Because the president has vehemently articulated this openly on several platforms that, look, it is definitely not going to be his administration where we will legitimize or legalize LGBTIQ or whatever we call it. My party has also reiterated...
But he didn't say either that it would be under his administration that it would be, so to speak, demonized. He didn't say that either. I mean, he found middle ground. He said... I wouldn't go this way, but he didn't say either that he would go to the extreme of the other.
You don't expect, once he's spoken to white, you don't expect him to speak about black. You understand? It's an option of accepting or refusing. So if he is refusing, definitely you don't need for him to speak about acceptance. So he's made his choice already. And my party's position is also quite clear. We are of the view that there are enough laws, also our traditions, and our own thinking as a people, our own philosophy. Everything objects to this, and therefore we feel that there are systems in place, there are a lot of things in place. Everything indicates that we as a society, we are not at a place to accept this. So my party rejects to this totally.
Let me just run this by you. Even in today's New Crusading Guide, we have your Member of Parliament for Doma East Constituency, Paul Chumberima, who is saying that, well, government is committed to protecting the views of everybody, but he doesn't necessarily feel this is the way to go when it comes to the LGBTQI bill. He doesn't feel that that indeed legislation is needed in that respect. We've had the likes of Obiri Boahin from your party, who has said that, yes, this is not us, culturally or otherwise, and so we must support the bill. But there are some members of your own party who are also saying, no, we must hasten slowly on this matter. We must approach with caution, and we must ensure that no rights are infringed upon as far as this situation is concerned, for which reason they will not subscribe to the bill, you know, moving forward. So it appears even within your caucus, there are those who are for and those who are vehemently against. Are you going to overlook? Your party says you see to the opinions of everybody. Are you going to overlook their opinions?
That's what I'm saying. There's always a collective position. However, you cannot take away the individual's right and freedom of speech. Therefore, he as an individual or a member of parliament has every right to advocate for his right and his people's right as well. So we as a party, our position is that there are enough laws to deal with this issue. We think that society has not come to a place to accept this as a practice among us. And we also, be it as it may, or whatever that people are putting across, it's part of the debate. When you take such bills to parliament, people will obviously debate, but at the end of the day, what will be the collective decision? What will come out as the law? If parliament, as an institution, reject this as a bill, it doesn't come out as law. But if you are able to go through it and pass it for it to become law, it means the overwhelming majority of them have accepted that this should become law and it becomes binding on us. As the people's representation, whatever they accept becomes law binding on us as well. But for them to articulate their views, I think it's depending on where each and every one stands. But be it as it may, we as a party think that, look, there are enough laws dealing with this already. We think that even the thinking of society, if you meet people, even the way people are up speaking against it today reflects that we as a society are not ready to embrace it, and that's what the government is up for.
All right, so it basically means that, just to get to the specifics, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Mr. President,
yes,
is for the bill.
Yeah, like I have said, the bill, individuals have their own differences. For instance, as I'm asking...
No, I just need clarity on that matter.
But
if the party is for it and he is, well, leader of the party we have there.
I am saying that my party is not for the legalization of the LGBTI. Okay. And I'm saying the president is also not for it. That I can speak to. As to the bill before Parliament, the president has not spoken, and I cannot affirm or deny that he is for it or not.
But your party is fully in support of the bill.
But I'm saying that my party is for the existing laws dealing with these issues and for how society is handling it already. Okay. Now, with the bill before Parliament, some persons have expressed certain human rights concerns in there. And for me, what is right is for all of us to debate it as to whether all those clauses and provisions in there are inhumane or going to be inimical to society. Is a legitimate and cautious advice that people are throwing in there. And it is up to us to debate it and see what can be taken out, what should be amended. I do not think, as an individual, that the whole bill should be thrown out. But those concerns that people have articulated could be looked at. People should come out with their alternative views. The amendment that's supposed to be made to those provisions are things that we could look at, because I do not think that the decision of everybody is that we should go and adopt this and accept it as a law without necessarily reviewing it. Other than that, the law would not, even the lawmaking process would not have provided an option for we society to submit memos and memorandums and other opinions for the legislature to consider in the enactment of the law.
Okay.
So it means that it is well in position for us to articulate our views. And obviously there are people that will object to it. But what is important, or the beauty of it, is that we come to terms with it and say, okay, these clauses are inhumane. These clauses are going to affect society, and therefore we should expand them from the law. And I'm sure, being at this stage, it will be looked at again. And you may agree with me that there are some legitimate concerns that other people have raised, that, look, there are certain provisions in the bill which conflict with the freedom of speech and other rights enshrined in the Constitution. And once it is inconsistent with the Constitution, definitely one day somebody will go to court and make sure it is striked out. So it is in the right place for us to look at it today, that we cannot criminalize speech because we want to make sure that we fight against LGBTIQ or whatever we call it. So it is in the right place for other people to speak about it. As is, I'm sure today, if you go into the NDC and other political parties, there are several number of them who may also be on the side of human rights, advocating for same. So it is not a matter of because one or two persons in our party are expressing their opinion on this law. All right. Then it definitely means that my party is against it.
Right. Well, I didn't intimate that. I was just trying to get from you a clear picture of what your party represents as far as this is concerned. But moving very quickly from there to another topical matter that is ravaging your party in some ways. It has to do with the appointment of MMDCEs. Yeah. And one crucial area would be in the central region, where one of those appointed has been turned down twice already. I mean, yesterday I was listening to the presser, the statements by Ricketts Hagan, Honorable Ricketts Hagan, among others, and he was contested in that very constituency. Why do you feel it has come to this, where it's a bit of a tug of war? In some places we've heard of money being exchanged, for favors, even in that particular situation in the central region. People have vehemently expressed their displeasure. Some have torched some of your party offices, if you recall, up north. It has become very dicey a situation. How did we get here? How does your party feel about this situation where money supposedly is exchanging hands? People are fighting against the president's nominees.
So let me be very clear on this matter. This has nothing to do with my political party. It is a clear scenario of the deterioration of our political establishment, where people... So
it's not unique to your party. It cuts across the political system. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and it's going to be worse in the near future.
It's going to be worse?
It's going to be worse, yeah. So I'm sure in the future, when I have similar opportunity of sitting with you again, we'll go through similar discussion, and I'll refer you back to today's discussion that indeed I pointed out that it's going to be worse in the future.
What makes you think it's going to get worse?
Yeah, because we've traveled from somewhere, we've gotten to where we are today. We know how it was previously. Anybody that is part of the political establishment or anybody that is a political watcher will agree with me that in the past we complained about some of these behaviors, and today it is worse. And therefore, as time travels, it is only ordinary for you to predict that it is going to worsen off. That's why I'm saying that it is not unique to my political party. if you look at the deterioration of our political establishment and the way society feels and think about the ordinary politician, people think, or today, the politician signifies money. The politician signifies riches. Therefore, people have a higher expectation from politicians and think that once you are nominated to serve in a political position, therefore you are rich. And for people to vote for you, now it has become almost synonymous to you paying them before they vote for you.
But it's not a good thing. Your party admits it's not a good thing. Some of your congresses, people have been accused of doing saying.
My party is definitely saying it's not a good thing. And you and I sitting here must advocate for a change in society. Other than
how do we do that? I mean,
by talking about it, by raising our hands, by shouting louder. It's not about the one in the helm of affairs. This is about civil education. This is about getting our people to understand that we have a responsibility as citizens to discharge faithfully. And therefore, when we call on you to discharge that responsibility, it is not up to you to charge people before discharging that responsibility. By nominating or voting for you to represent us on the assembly as an assemblyman, it is up to you to represent our interests wholly. And therefore, make sure that whoever that the president nominates or whoever that is put there to discharge that administrative position is going to discharge that faithfully. So yours is to assess the person and make sure that that person has the qualities and the competence that we deserve as a society to serve us. That's all that you are there for. Therefore, for you to go and charge to vote for the person is wrong. Some are also motivated by ill motives like selfishness, greed, because it is not their friend, because it is not their relative, therefore they're not going to vote.
You started by talking about the fact that the assembly people must represent,
the interests
of the people, those people in the assembly whom they represent. And if they feel that a nominee is not the best for them as DCE or MCE, it is only right that they turn the person down. Now, in this instance, in the Central Region, the person has been turned down twice. And we're looking at a re-nomination or even another person coming into the slot. Don't you think that is a pointer as well to the fact that the people are voicing out, they are expressing their opinions, and we shouldn't be forcing, so to speak?
It cannot be a blanket statement.
Nominees on them?
It cannot be a blanket statement. You see, when we say forcing, first of all, before I explain that, we do not say it's forcing because in the end it is the prerogative of the president to appoint someone to serve as
Yes, MNC. But when you appoint and people say no, what do you do? No,
in this case, what I'm saying is that it's not a blanket statement where people generally say no because they think the person lacks the competence or the qualities that society deserves. But then people are saying, in some cases, people are saying no because that person is not their relative. That person is not a friend of theirs. That person is definitely not coming from their hometown. But I'm not sure the president can appoint from each and everyone's hometown to come and serve as MC. So whoever the president appoints, it is all of us to look at the legitimate base. I feel that those that have a legitimate reason, when they disappoint or when they deny the person the opportunity, definitely the president will look at these considerations and make sure that maybe an alternative person is appointed. You understand? So in that case, yes, case by case basis, the president will make a decision.
In this instance, it gets interesting because there have been allegations of money exchanging hands and some assembly members even contemplating returning certain sums of money, which per our reporter has not been done yet. But when you get to the point where you have a regional minister going on her knees, I'm talking about the central regional minister, to plead on behalf of the nominee. And the nominee is still turned down when supposedly money has exchanged hands and the nominee is still voted against. What picture does that paint to you?
It doesn't paint any picture. Going her knees doesn't change anything. I thought society wants humble people. So if the regional minister is being humble,
people have said that she is interfering in the first place because she should just let the process be. No, she's not interfering.
She's only advocating for her candidate. And rightly so, she has every right to do so. Even in general elections, we go to people's house, we beg them. You see politicians pounding fufu in people's house, driving banku and other things in people's house. Don't we accept them? We embrace them. And we call these politicians humble politicians. So how come today the same value is being changed? No, it's the same. She's being humble. She's pleading to the people. We need this person to serve us as a society. And therefore, let us embrace her and let the person serve us. That's all she's saying. And it doesn't make any difference. If they are saying that they don't like her twice, all that I'm saying is that president will look at the legitimacy of their claim. Is it that she has something against the people? Is it that she doesn't have the qualities that the society is looking for? Is it that the community is rejecting her because of certain reasons that is unknown to the president? It will come back to the drawing table again. The president will exercise that same prerogative. In the end, all these things that we do, it's not as if when we reject the president, we still have the option and the right to decide. That's what I'm saying. The president at any point is not forcing it down our throat, because we do not have the right or the option to say we are appointing our own authority. It will still come from the president.
Right. Right. So the central regional minister is the one who did the pleading, but of course the nominee is different. But
yeah, I understand.
Let's look at the way forward. You have spoken about the fact that it's only going to get worse.
Yes.
Some members of your party.
Do you agree?
I don't have an opinion on that. But some members of your party have said that the accusations of money being sent around and other things didn't really happen. So on one end, some of your party members are saying these things don't exist, these problems don't exist. You are saying the problems do exist and they are going to get worse. How do we deal with them moving forward?
It doesn't matter. Maybe the person is speaking from the perspective of what he has witnessed or what he has experienced.
But from where you said it is happening?
From where it has been happening. I am saying that we are all aware that this has been happening. And I'm saying that it is either we deal with it, speak to it, and make sure that as a society we overcome this collectively, or we sit down and behave as ostrich, bury our head in the dust for this to swallow us.
Pretend it's not there.
Pretend it's not there, for it to swallow us in the nearest future. Because it's going to get worse anyway. It doesn't matter which party is in power, and therefore we must deal with it. That's my position. It doesn't matter what another person is saying. And don't limit it to my party. I'm sure if you speak to other persons from the NDC or from other political parties, some will admit, some will also reject it. But the truth is that it is with us as a people. And therefore, we must get our people to understand that the essence of you being there is not to collect money. And for me, until we all speak against it, until we all raise our voice and our hands and say that, look, we are not going to accept this anymore, it is still going to be with us, because people will pretend about it. And once others are using it, it becomes a tool that everybody must take advantage of.
Peddling.
And therefore, I think that we need to overcome it. And it's not just this assembly election. Our elections in general has been characterized with money. And we all know it in this country.
So that will, that political will and general will is needed.
Yes. And we need to all come together and say, look, we need to rise, because it is costing us as a society. It is one of the key influences of corruption. And we all need to make sure that people come to terms with it, so that genuinely people that are put in there will have right intentions of serving as a society.
Okay.
In the end, who pays for these bills? It is going to come from these things, because I'm sure if you push a person to go beyond what a person can afford, many people have explained this to be where one has that kind of goodwill to say, okay, because you came to vote for me, have this for transportation, take this, and because we as a people, as part of our customs and tradition, many a time we accept such gifts. But no, now it is moving beyond the ordinary gift to demand. And it is going to worsen off.
It must be nipped in the bud, I agree. But let's wrap on this point. And a lot of people have said, for example, and I mentioned from the start of this conversation, Mr. President has been traveling in recent times quite a lot. Let's not get into the bit about how he travels, the jet and the Falcon and all of that. But what would you say have been the gains, the benefits of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, especially in these last few months? We've seen, for example, how he's traveled, and on the back of which travels, there have been donations when it comes to COVID-19 vaccines and all of that. But speaking to ordinary Ghanaians now, within the last 6 months, for example, the travels of the president, what benefits would you say they have accrued to Mother Ghana?
You see, first of all, to start with this conversation, sometimes I think it's needless. And not with respect to you, with the greatest of respect, but then with the way sometimes we as society, we become so hard on our leaders, and if you want to count the number of travels that has been undertaken by our leaders, no, I don't think it matters. And basically, the NDC are culpable for such behaviors. You know, when President Kufuor was in power, the same thing happened. They happened to count the number of times that President Kufuor had traveled, and it became a news item. They made press conferences and all the noises about it. Ask yourself, when President Mills Mahama were in place, did you hear the NPP doing same? Did you even hear the NDC? They themselves, undertaking the number of counts that their own president had traveled. No, it is petty politics. But whenever they are in opposition, these are the things that they thrive on. These are the things that they want the ordinary person to focus on. Right. But it doesn't really matter.
I mean, it's happened from both sides.
No, it doesn't. We do not have the record.
But that point,
if the NPP has that record,
point has been overflogged. So let's look at the benefits that have accrued to us on the back of this.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. You see,
unfortunately, we don't have that much time. That is why I'm saying
so the benefit that has accrued to us, first of all, you rightly pointed out some of these COVID vaccines that has been donated to, and not just even Ghana, to Africa as a whole. You remember when President Akufo-Addo traveled to Europe as part of the EU tour, the discussions that were on. Later on, we received certain quantity of vaccines that was given to the AU and ECOWAS, which is being shared among the African states, and Ghana has its position in there. Now, as we speak now, we have some donation coming from America as a result of its recent interactions with, what do you call it, Nancy Pelosi and others, which has also resulted in this vaccine. Now, every country is trying to achieve herd immunity. And one of the most critical things that as a country we need now is to make sure that we are able to afford or get enough of these vaccines to treat our people. Now, the opportunity cost is that either you spend as part of your expenditure in acquiring these vaccines, or you make sure that you have an alternative way of having it so that the same resources could be deployed into other development. So we're getting value for money. So we are getting a lot of value for money.
Okay.
Aside that, some of the things that he even advocated for at the UN, you see, even if it does not materialize today, I believe that in the long run, it will materialize in the future, which will benefit Ghana and Africa as a whole. So we cannot quantify what his travel is bringing in as a country. And even look at the projects that he's been, any time that President Akufo-Addo had a cause to travel, he comes in with a lot of developmental projects, which is very good for us as a country.
Well, it's been engaging. Unfortunately, we're going to have to draw the curtains on the conversation here, but important points you've made on the president's travels and what's the benefits are accruing to us. The MMDCE situation, I feel it's telling what you said. The problem is going to get worse, but we need to nip it in the bud. Sure. And Askumi, thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you, my brother.
And hopefully next time the rain will permit you to get here much earlier.
Forgive me.
Ernest Kumi is actually a member of the NPP's communication team. He joined us this morning on Beyond the Headlines. But do stay with us. Right after this break, we have a lot more coming your way from Tech Talk, Bits and Bytes, I should say, where we talk about the various ways you can use your computer, and also talking about the menstrual issue when it comes to our young girls. Do stay.